The slap echoed through the narrow hallway of their Lagos apartment like a gunshot. Adanna's head snapped sideways, blood trickling from her split lip as she crashed against the wooden cabinet. Family photos, their wedding day, their son's first birthday, shattered on the floor around her. Her husband Chukwudi loomed over her, his fist still clenched, his eyes blazing with a rage she'd seen building for months. "You think I don't know," he spat, grabbing her by her braids. "You think I'm stupid?" She tried to speak, but his hand struck again. And again. The world blurred, furniture, walls, his twisted face, all spinning into darkness as her body gave way. When she collapsed, he finally stopped. Chukwudi stood there, chest heaving, staring at his wife's crumpled form on the floor. Blood pooled beneath her head. Her chest barely moved. "Adanna?" His voice cracked. "Adanna." Panic replaced rage. He dropped to his knees, shaking her shoulders. "Nothing." He pressed his ear to her chest, her heartbeat was faint, irregular. "God, no. No, no, no. What would you do if your past was exposed in front of everyone? Hit like if you've ever been judged unfairly, and comment where you're watching from." 2 hours earlier. Adanna had been humming gospel music while cooking jollof rice in their small kitchen. Her son Emeka, only 5 years old, played with toy cars on the living room floor. She smiled watching him, innocent, untouched by the storm brewing in her marriage. Chukwudi was a good man once. A bank manager in Victoria Island, respected in their church, admired by neighbors in their Surulere neighborhood. But lately, something had changed. He'd grown suspicious, paranoid. He questioned her every move, where she went, who she talked to, why she took so long at the market. She didn't know how he found out. The letter arrived that morning, a plain brown envelope slipped under their door. Chukwudi had opened it before she woke up. Inside was a single photograph and 3 typed words, "Ask your wife." The photograph showed Adanna, younger, thinner, standing outside a hotel in Abuja. She wore a tight red dress she'd burned years ago. Beside her stood a man, a politician whose face everyone in Nigeria knew. His hand rested possessively on her waist. When Chukwudi confronted her at breakfast, she'd tried to explain. "That was before I met you. I was different then. I was a prostitute," he'd hissed, his voice cold enough to freeze her blood. "I was surviving," she whispered. "My family had nothing. I did what I had to do." But he wouldn't listen. All day, the rage festered inside him. When Emeka was finally asleep and they were alone, it exploded. Now, in the ambulance racing toward Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Chukwudi held Adanna's limp hand. The paramedic worked frantically, checking vitals, administering oxygen, shouting medical terms Chukwudi didn't understand. "Is she going to die?" Chukwudi's voice was barely audible. The paramedic didn't answer. At the hospital, doctors rushed her into the emergency room. Chukwudi paced the corridor, his knuckles still bloody, his shirt stained with her blood. Neighbors had followed the ambulance. Mrs. Okafor, the landlord's wife, watched him with disgust. Mr. Adeyemi, the retired pastor, shook his head slowly. Everyone knew. Everyone had heard the screams. 3 hours later, a doctor emerged, a middle-aged woman named Dr. Nwosu, her face grave. "Mr. Chukwudi?" He rushed forward. "How is she?" "Is she?" "Your wife is alive," Dr. Nwosu said carefully. "But barely. She has a fractured skull, internal bleeding, and severe trauma. We've stabilized her, but the next 24 hours are critical." Chukwudi's legs buckled. He grabbed the wall for support. "Thank God. Thank God she's..." "There's something else." Dr. Nwosu's voice turned sharp, cutting through his relief like a blade. "Something you need to know." He looked up, confused. "What?" The doctor stepped closer, her eyes hard with judgment. "Your wife is 8 weeks pregnant." The words didn't register at first. Then they hit him like a physical blow. Pregnant. 8 weeks. They hadn't been intimate in 3 months, not since he'd started suspecting her, avoiding her touch, sleeping on the couch. The timeline was impossible. Unless. That baby, Chukwudi whispered, his voice hollow. It's not mine. Dr. Nwosu's expression didn't change. What matters now is whether she survives the night. Because if she doesn't, Mr. Chukwudi, you'll be charged with murder. And that baby you just tried to kill? You'll have 2 deaths on your conscience. She turned and walked away, leaving him standing in the fluorescent-lit corridor, surrounded by whispers and accusing stares. Chukwudi sank to the floor, his world collapsing around him. He'd beaten his wife nearly to death, and discovered she was carrying another man's child. But whose? Chukwudi didn't go home that night. He sat in the hospital waiting room, surrounded by strangers and their suffering, a woman crying over her burned child, an old man coughing blood into a rag, a young couple arguing in whispers. He stared at his hands, still stained with Adanna's blood, and wondered how his life had become this nightmare. His phone buzzed constantly. His mother. His pastor. Colleagues from work. He ignored them all. Except one. At 3 a.m., a message from an unknown number, "You should have kept your mouth shut. Now everyone will know what she really is." He stared at the screen, rage and confusion warring inside him. Who sent the photograph? Who wanted to destroy his marriage? When dawn broke, Dr. Nwosu returned. Her face was tired but professional. "Your wife is awake," she said quietly. "She's asking for you." Chukwudi's heart lurched. "Can I see her?" "Follow me." "But Mr. Chukwudi, she's very weak. Don't upset her. And don't expect answers right now." He followed her through sterile corridors to the ICU. Adanna lay in the bed, her head wrapped in bandages, tubes and wires connecting her to machines that beeped rhythmically. Her face was swollen, bruised, almost unrecognizable. When she saw him, tears spilled down her cheeks. "Chukwudi," she whispered. He stood frozen in the doorway, unable to move forward or backward. "I'm sorry," he finally choked out. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." "The baby," she interrupted, her voice barely audible. "Is the baby okay?" His jaw tightened. So she knew. Of course she knew. The doctors said it's too early to tell. He moved closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "Whose child is it, Adanna? Who have you been sleeping with?" Fresh tears streamed down her face. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me." His voice rose, and a nurse appeared in the doorway, ready to intervene. Adanna closed her eyes. "I can't. Not yet. You wouldn't understand. Try me." She turned her head away. "Please go. I'm tired." Rage flared again, but he fought it down. He couldn't afford another mistake, not with police already asking questions, not with neighbors spreading gossip through Surrelier like wildfire. He left without another word. Outside the hospital, Chukwudi found his younger brother Obinna waiting by his car. "Everyone's talking," Obinna said, handing him a bottle of water. "Mama is crying. The pastor wants to see you. And your boss called, you're suspended pending investigation." Chukwudi laughed bitterly. "Of course I am. Brother, what happened?" "Mama said Adanna was a good wife." "Why would you?" "She's pregnant with another man's child." Obinna's eyes widened. "What?" Chukwudi pulled out his phone, showing him the photograph that had arrived that morning. Obinna studied it, his expression darkening. "Where did this come from?" "I don't know. Someone sent it to destroy us." Obinna zoomed in on the photo, frowning. "This hotel, I know this place. It's in Abuja, near the National Assembly. This was taken at least 6, 7 years ago. Look at the cars in the background. So whoever sent this has been holding on to it for years, waiting for the right moment. Obinna looked up. This isn't random, brother. Someone is targeting your family specifically. Chukwudi's blood ran cold. Who? Before Obinna could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Hello? A man's voice, smooth, educated, familiar. Mr. Chukwudi Okonkwo. I hope your wife survives. It would be tragic if she died before you learned the truth about your son. Chukwudi's grip tightened on the phone. Who is this? What do you want? Your son Emeka is 5 years old, isn't he? Tell me, have you ever wondered why he doesn't look like you? Why his skin is lighter, his features different? The world tilted. Chukwudi grabbed the car for support. You're lying. DNA doesn't lie, Mr. Okonkwo. Neither does your wife's past. She was very popular in certain circles, politicians, businessmen, men with money and power. Men like me. Who are you? Chukwudi shouted. Check your email. I've sent you a gift, something that will help you understand who you really married. The line went dead. Chukwudi's hands shook as he opened his email on his phone. A new message waited, no subject line. Just an attachment, a video file. Don't open it here, Obinna warned. Not in public. But Chukwudi couldn't stop himself. He clicked play. The video was grainy, dated 7 years ago. A hotel room. And there, on the screen, was Adanna, younger, laughing, drinking champagne. A man entered the frame, the same politician from the photograph. They kissed. The camera kept rolling. Chukwudi's stomach turned. He watched for 30 seconds before closing the file, bile rising in his throat. Brother? Obinna gripped his shoulder. Chukwudi looked up, his eyes hollow. They recorded her. They recorded everything. And now someone's using it to destroy us. Why? Why now, after all these years? I don't know. Chukwudi's voice was dead, emotionless. But I'm going to find out. He started the car, his mind racing. Adanna had lied to him about her past, maybe about their son, certainly about this pregnancy. But someone else was orchestrating this horror, pulling strings from the shadows. Someone who knew Adanna's secrets. Someone who wanted revenge. As he drove away from the hospital, his phone buzzed again. Another message, Act 2 begins tomorrow. Tell your wife her past is about to go viral. By noon the next day, Adanna's past was no longer a secret. Someone had uploaded the video online, not just to one platform, but everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp groups. Within hours, it had been viewed thousands of times, shared by strangers and neighbors alike. The comments were vicious, unforgiving. This is what happens when you marry a prostitute. She deserved what she got. Where are these so-called changed women in our churches? Still deceiving good men. Chukwudi's phone exploded with messages, friends expressing shock, relatives demanding explanations, church members calling for Adanna's excommunication. His mother called 12 times before he finally answered. Chukwudi, what is this madness I'm seeing online? Her voice trembled with fury and shame. Is this who you married? Is this the mother of my grandson? Mama, I didn't know. You didn't know? You brought this woman into our family, and you didn't know she was a prostitute? That she slept with politicians for money? It was before we met. She was young, desperate. And now? What about this pregnancy? Whose child is she carrying now? Chukwudi had no answer. I'm coming to Lagos, his mother declared. And when I get there, we're settling this properly. That woman cannot remain in our family. She hung up before he could protest. At the hospital, Adanna lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, tears streaming silently down her face. Her phone had been buzzing non-stop until a nurse finally confiscated it for her health. But she didn't need to see the messages to know what they said. She could imagine the disgust, the judgment, the gleeful cruelty of people who'd smiled at her in church last Sunday. Her past, the thing she'd buried, the shame she'd carried for 7 years, was now public entertainment. Dr. Nwosu entered, her expression sympathetic. "How are you feeling?" "Like my life is over," Adanna whispered. The doctor sat on the edge of the bed. "Mrs. Okonkwo, I need to examine you properly today. We need to assess the baby's condition and your injuries. But first, do you want to talk about what's happening outside this room?" Adanna shook her head. "What's there to say? They've already judged me. Your husband is outside. He's been here since dawn, though he hasn't tried to see you. Should I send him in?" "No." The word came out sharp, final. "I don't want to see him. You'll have to face him eventually." "I know." Adanna's voice broke. "But not yet. I can't. I can't handle his eyes. The way he looks at me now." Dr. Nwosu squeezed her hand gently. "For what it's worth, Mrs. Okonkwo, I've seen many women in your position. Women judged for their pasts while their abusers walk free. You're not alone." But Adanna felt utterly alone. Outside, Chukwudi sat in the waiting area, his phone in his hand, scrolling through the nightmare his life had become. The video had been viewed over 50,000 times. News blogs had picked up the story, banker's wife exposed as former prostitute. His name was mentioned. His bank. His church. His boss had called that morning. "Take a month's leave. Paid. We need this to blow over before you return." Translation: Don't come back until people forget you're the man who married a prostitute and nearly killed her. A shadow fell across him. He looked up to find Pastor Adeyemi, the retired minister from his building, standing there with a Bible clutched in his weathered hands. "Pastor," Chukwudi greeted him wearily. "My son." The old man sat beside him. "I've been praying for you since yesterday. For you, for your wife, for your family." "Thank you, sir. But prayers alone won't fix this." Pastor Adeyemi's voice was firm. "You need to make a choice, Chukwudi. What kind of man do you want to be?" "I don't understand." "Your wife made mistakes years ago, before she met you, before she knew Christ. She's paid for those mistakes every day since, carrying that shame in silence. But you?" The pastor fixed him with a piercing stare. "You almost killed her. You beat a pregnant woman until she collapsed. What punishment fits that sin?" Chukwudi flinched. "I know what I did was wrong." "Do you?" "Because right now, the whole world is talking about her past. Nobody's talking about yours, about your violence, your pride, your refusal to forgive. They're calling her names while you sit here playing the victim." The words stung because they were true. "What am I supposed to do?" Chukwudi asked helplessly. "Pretend I'm not hurt? Pretend she didn't lie to me? Pretend this baby she's carrying might not even be mine?" "No," Pastor Adeyemi said quietly. "You're supposed to remember that Christ forgave you for every sin you've committed and will commit. And if he can forgive you, why can't you forgive her?" Before Chukwudi could respond, his phone rang. His brother Obina. "Brother, turn on the news. Channel 5. Now." Chukwudi scrambled to find a television. A nurse directed him to the waiting room TV. He switched to Channel 5. A news anchor sat at a desk, her expression grave. Behind her, Adanna's face filled the screen, the photograph from years ago. Breaking news this afternoon: Lagos socialite and banker's wife Adanna Okonkwo has been identified in a viral video showing her involvement with several high-ranking politicians between 2016 and 2018. Sources claim she was part of an exclusive escort ring that catered to Nigeria's elite. Her husband, Chukwudi Okonkwo, a manager at Union Bank, allegedly beat her severely when he discovered her past. She is currently hospitalized in critical condition. The anchor paused. But the story takes a shocking turn. According to anonymous sources, Mrs. Okonkwo's current pregnancy may be linked to one of her former clients, a married politician who has paid her substantial sums to keep quiet about their ongoing relationship. Chukwudi's vision blurred. The room spun. We've reached out to Union Bank and the Okonkwo family for comment, but so far. He turned off the TV, his hands shaking violently. It wasn't just a video anymore. It was a full investigation, a media circus. Someone had given reporters names, dates, details. Someone wanted to annihilate Adanna completely. His phone rang again. This time, the same unknown number from yesterday. He answered, his voice raw with fury. What do you want from us? The smooth voice laughed. Want? I already have everything I want. Your wife's reputation destroyed, your marriage in ruins, your family torn apart. Consider this payback, Mr. Okonkwo. Payback for what? What did we ever do to you? Ask your wife about Abuja. Ask her about the night she stole from the wrong man. Ask her about the politician whose career she nearly destroyed with her greed. Who are you? Someone who never forgets a debt. The voice turned cold. And Adanna's debt is far from paid. Tell her the child she's carrying? He wants it back. And if she doesn't comply? What? What will you do? I'll make sure she loses everything, including that little boy she loves so much. Emeka, isn't it? The line went dead. Chukwudi stood frozen, his son's name echoing in his mind like a death sentence. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who loves emotional drama. What do you think happens next? Comment below. Chukwudi burst into Adanna's hospital room, ignoring the nurses' protests. Adanna jerked awake, her eyes wide with fear when she saw his face. Who is he? Chukwudi demanded. The man who's doing this to us, who is he? She pulled the thin hospital blanket up to her chin, as if it could protect her. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Not anymore. He slammed his hand on the table beside her bed, and she flinched. He immediately regretted it, softening his voice. Someone called me. He said you stole from a politician in Abuja. He said the baby you're carrying belongs to him. He threatened Emeka. The blood drained from Adanna's face. Her lips trembled. Say something. Chukwudi pleaded. If you ever loved me, if you ever loved our son, tell me the truth. Adanna closed her eyes, tears squeezing through her lashes. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. His name is Senator Danjuma. The name hit Chukwudi like ice water. Everyone in Nigeria knew Senator Obinna Danjuma, Minister of Petroleum, one of the most powerful men in the country. You slept with Senator Danjuma, Chukwudi said slowly, trying to process it. 7 years ago. I was 22, desperate, working as a hostess at high-end parties in Abuja. He noticed me. He was married, but... She opened her eyes, looking at her husband. He offered me money. More money than my family had seen in generations. My father was sick, we had no money for treatment, my younger siblings were dropping out of school. What would you have done? Chukwudi had no answer. It was supposed to be one night, Adanna continued, her voice hollow. But he kept calling me back. He bought me clothes, paid for my father's hospital bills, sent my siblings to school. I told myself I was helping my family. That God would forgive me because I had no choice. What about the stealing? What did you take from him? Adanna's jaw tightened. Information. Documents. I found files in his hotel suite, records of oil money being diverted to offshore accounts, bribes to government officials. I didn't understand half of it, but I knew it was dangerous. I photographed everything. Chukwudi stared at her, stunned. Why would you do that? Because I was tired of being powerless. Tired of being used. Her voice rose, passionate now. I thought if I had evidence, I could protect myself. Maybe even expose him if he ever threatened me. And did you? Expose him? She shook her head. I tried to sell the information to a journalist. He promised me protection, promised my name would never be revealed. But before the story could run, Senator Danjuma found out. He sent men to my apartment. They beat me, threatened my family, took the documents. The journalist disappeared, no one knows what happened to him. Chukwudi felt sick. So you ran? I ran to Lagos. Changed my name, started over. I found a job, joined a church, tried to become someone new. And then I met you. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. You were kind, respectful. You looked at me like I was worth something. I wanted to tell you about my past, but I was afraid. Afraid you'd see me the way everyone else did, as ruined, dirty, unworthy. So you said nothing. I said nothing, she admitted. And I prayed every day that God would let me keep this new life. That he'd let me be Adanna Okonkwo, wife and mother, instead of the girl who sold herself to survive. Silence filled the room, heavy with years of secrets and pain. What about Emeka? Chukwudi finally asked, his voice cracking. Is he mine? Adanna's face crumpled. Yes. I swear on everything holy, Chukwudi, Emeka is your son. We did DNA testing when he was born because of complications. The hospital has records. He's yours. A wave of relief crashed over Chukwudi, so powerful his knees almost buckled. And this baby, he whispered. Adanna's hand moved to her stomach, protective even now. 3 months ago, Senator Danjuma found me. I don't know how. He showed up at the market while I was shopping. He said he'd been looking for me for years, that he never forgot me. And you slept with him? The betrayal cut deep. No. I told him to leave me alone, that I was married with a child. But he wouldn't listen. He said I still owed him for the documents I stole, for the scandal I almost caused. He said he owned me. Her voice broke. 2 months ago, he came to our building when you were at work. He forced his way into our apartment. I tried to fight him, but... She couldn't finish. She didn't need to. Chukwudi's hands curled into fists. He raped you. She nodded, sobbing now. I was so ashamed. I scrubbed my skin raw that night, trying to feel clean again. I prayed he used protection, that nothing would come of it. But when I missed my period... Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew how it would look. How would I explain that a senator raped me without revealing everything else? You'd want to go to the police, but he's too powerful. He'd destroy us. So I stayed silent. I thought maybe I could get an abortion quietly, make it all go away. But you didn't. I couldn't. Fresh tears streamed down her face. I went to the clinic 3 times. Sat in the waiting room. But every time, I thought about Emeka, about how much I loved him from the moment I knew he existed. And I couldn't do it. Even though this baby was conceived in violence, it's still a life. I couldn't kill it. Chukwudi sank into the chair beside her bed, his mind reeling. Every assumption he'd made, every judgment, all wrong. The photograph, the video, he sent them, Adanna said quietly. Senator Danjuma. He's punishing me for trying to expose him years ago. He wants me to suffer publicly, wants to destroy any chance I have at a normal life. And the threats against Emeka? He wants me to give him this baby. He has no children, his wife is barren. He believes this child is God's gift to him. Her voice turned bitter. A child born of rape, and he thinks he deserves it. Chukwudi stood abruptly, pacing the small room. We go to the police. Right now. We tell them everything. The police can't touch him. He has immunity. And even if they could, who would believe me? The woman in that viral video, the former prostitute? They'd say I seduced him, that I'm lying for money. Then we run. Take Emeka and disappear. Where? He found me once. He'll find me again. Adanna's voice was resigned, defeated. There's no escape from men like Senator Danjuma. They always win. Before Chukwudi could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. Obinna. Brother, where are you? At the hospital with Adanna. You need to come home. Now. What's wrong? Obinna's voice was tight with fear. Mama's here. And she brought Emeka with her. But when they arrived at the apartment, Emeka was gone. Someone took him from the car while Mama was getting the bags. Chukwudi's blood turned to ice. What? He left a note. It says, you have 48 hours to bring me what's mine, or the boy disappears forever. The phone slipped from Chukwudi's fingers, clattering to the floor. Senator Danjuma had taken his son.
The next 48 hours were hell. Chukwudi reported Emeka's kidnapping to the police, but the officers were skeptical. Are you sure this isn't a custody issue with your wife's family? One asked, eyeing Chukwudi with suspicion. We've heard about the viral video. My son was taken. Chukwudi shouted. Why aren't you doing anything? We are, sir. But Lagos has thousands of missing children. Unless you have evidence pointing to a specific suspect. He couldn't mention Senator Danjuma. Not without proof. The man was too powerful, too connected. The police would laugh him out of the station, or worse, report him to the senator himself. Adanna checked herself out of the hospital against medical advice. Dr. Nwosu tried to stop her. You have a skull fracture. You need rest, but Adanna refused to listen. My son is missing, she said simply. I don't care about rest. They returned to the apartment in Surulere. Chukwudi's mother was there, her eyes swollen from crying. When she saw Adanna, her face hardened. This is your fault, she spat. Your filthy past has brought this evil to our family. Mama, please, Chukwudi intervened. Not now.
When then?
When will we address the fact that your wife is She was raped, Chukwudi said flatly. The baby she's carrying isn't from an affair. Senator Danjuma raped her. And now he's taken Emeka to force her to give him the child. His mother's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no words. At midnight on the first day, Chukwudi's phone rang. The unknown number. He answered on speaker, so Adanna could hear. Where's my son? Senator Danjuma's smooth voice filled the room. He's safe.
For now.
Playing with toys, eating well. He even asked about his mother. You bastard. Careful, Mr. Okonkwo. I hold your son's life in my hands. A little respect would be wise. Adanna grabbed the phone. Please, Senator. I'll give you anything. Just return my son. Anything? The senator laughed. Then here are my terms. You will publicly announce that the child you're carrying is mine, willingly conceived. You will grant me full custody upon birth. And you will sign a document swearing never to speak of our past relationship or any alleged documents you claim to have stolen. Do this, and Emeka returns unharmed. And if I refuse? Then Emeka goes to a place where you'll never find him. Perhaps an orphanage in Kano. Perhaps a buyer in Benin Republic. Children disappear every day in Nigeria, Adanna. No one will question one more. Adanna's legs gave out. Chukwudi caught her, holding her up. You have until tomorrow night, the senator continued. 8 p.m. Come to the Victoria Island Marina. Alone. Bring the signed documents I'll email you. Make the right choice, Adanna. For Emeka's sake. The line went dead. They spent the day preparing. Adanna arrived with a lawyer friend who drafted the documents the senator wanted: custody agreements, non-disclosure forms, statements absolving him of any crime. Each signature felt like another nail in Adanna's coffin. There has to be another way, Chukwudi kept saying. We can't just give up. But what choice did they have? The police were useless. The media had already convicted Adanna in the court of public opinion. And Senator Danjuma had the resources of the Nigerian government at his disposal. They were ants fighting a giant. At 7 p.m., Adanna dressed carefully, a modest yellow dress, her hair wrapped in a gele. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Where had the hopeful bride gone? The proud mother? All that remained was a shell, broken and hollow. Chukwudi touched her shoulder. I'm coming with you, he said alone. I don't care. I'm not letting you face him by yourself. She turned, taking his face in her hands. If something goes wrong, Chukwudi, if he doesn't give Emeka back, promise me you'll keep fighting. Promise me you'll find our son. Nothing's going wrong, he said firmly, though fear shadowed his eyes. We're getting Emeka back tonight. The Victoria Island Marina was eerily quiet. Luxury boats bobbed gently in their slips, their polished hulls reflecting the orange glow of security lights. Adanna walked down the wooden dock, her heels clicking against the planks. Chukwudi and Adanna followed at a distance, staying in the shadows. A black SUV waited at the end of the dock. Its windows were tinted, its engine running. The back door opened. Senator Danjuma stepped out. He was a handsome man, tall, well-dressed, his graying hair giving him an air of distinguished authority. He smiled when he saw Adanna, as if greeting an old friend. You came, he said warmly. I knew you would. You always were a smart girl. Where's my son? Adanna demanded. Close by. First, the papers. She handed him the folder. He opened it, scanning each document carefully under the marina lights. His smile widened. Perfect. See how easy that was? Now, about the press conference.
Where is my
son? Senator Danjuma's smile faded. He snapped his fingers. Another man emerged from the SUV, a security guard, bulky and armed. He opened the trunk. Inside, curled up and unconscious, was Emeka. Adanna screamed, rushing forward. The guard blocked her path. Is he alive? She shouted. What did you do to him? Relax. Just a mild sedative to keep him calm during the drive. Senator Danjuma's voice was almost bored. He'll wake up in a few hours with nothing but a headache. Adanna lunged for her son, but the guard's grip on her arm was iron. Not so fast, the senator said. We have one more matter to discuss. You see, I've been thinking about our arrangement. These papers are good, but they're not enough. I need insurance that you'll never speak against me again. I signed everything you asked for. Yes, but paper can be contested. Lawyers can argue. Courts can overturn. He stepped closer, his cologne overwhelming. What I need is your complete cooperation, which means you'll come work for me again. My wife and I are hosting events, political fundraisers, international conferences. I need hostesses who understand discretion. You'll do this for the next 2 years, and when it's over, you can have your life back. Adanna stared at him in disbelief. You want me to go back to that life? To be your prostitute again? I prefer the term associate. And yes, 2 years. Then you're free, the child is mine, and Emeka grows up safe and healthy. Everyone wins. Except me. Senator Danjuma shrugged. You should have thought about that before you stole from me. From the shadows, Chukwudi watched the scene unfold, his fury building. This man, this monster, had raped his wife, kidnapped his son, and now wanted to own Adanna for 2 more years of abuse. Adanna grabbed his arm. Brother, don't. He has guards. We can't. But Chukwudi wasn't listening. He strode forward onto the dock, his voice ringing out across the water. Let them go. Now. Senator Danjuma turned, his expression shifting from surprise to amusement. Ah, the husband. I wondered when you'd appear. Tell me, Mr. Okonkwo, How does it feel knowing another man has claimed everything you thought was yours? Chukwudi stopped 5 feet away, his fists clenched. You're a rapist and a kidnapper. Let my son go, or I'll make sure every news outlet in Nigeria knows what you've done. Will you? The senator laughed. With what evidence? The word of a disgraced banker and his prostitute wife?
Please.
I'll have you arrested for defamation before you finish your first sentence. Then arrest me. But at least I'll go down fighting for my family instead of cowering like you do behind your money and power. Something flickered in the senator's eyes. Respect, perhaps, or calculation. You have courage. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. What exactly do you propose? Chukwudi hadn't thought that far ahead. He'd acted on pure instinct, desperate to protect what remained of his family. But now, standing face to face with one of Nigeria's most powerful men, he felt the weight of his helplessness. Let them go, he repeated quietly. Take me instead. I'll work for you, do whatever you want. Just leave my wife and son alone. Adanna gasped. Chukwudi, no. It's a generous offer, Senator Danjuma mused. But worthless. You see, I don't need another servant. I need Adanna specifically because she knows what it means to disappoint me. She knows the consequences. He turned back to Adanna. So, what will it be? 2 years of service, or I take Emeka and you never see him again. Decide now. Adanna looked at her unconscious son in the trunk. Then at her husband, standing there ready to sacrifice everything for her. Then at the senator, whose smile promised nothing but more pain. She opened her mouth to answer. A voice rang out from the parking lot. Police. Nobody move. Everyone froze. A woman emerged from the shadows, Dr. Nwosu, the doctor from the hospital. Behind her were 4 police officers, their weapons drawn. Senator Danjuma, Dr. Nwosu said calmly, walking onto the dock. You're under arrest for kidnapping, rape, and extortion. The senator's face darkened. This is absurd. Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are. Dr. Nwosu held up her phone. And I have a recording of everything you just said. The rape confession, the kidnapping admission, the attempted coercion. All of it. She'd been there the entire time, recording from the parking lot. Senator Danjuma's security guard reached for his weapon, but the police were faster. Within seconds, he was disarmed and on the ground, hands cuffed behind his back. The senator himself remained calm, his politician's smile returning. You think one recording will bring me down? I have lawyers. I have judges on my payroll. This will disappear by morning. Maybe, Dr. Nwosu said. But I also sent copies to 3 major news stations, 2 international human rights organizations, and 5 journalist friends who specialize in government corruption. By morning, every person in Nigeria will know what you've done. Your political career is over. For the first time, fear crossed the senator's face. The police moved forward to arrest him. He didn't resist, there was no point. He simply stared at Adanna with cold hatred. You'll regret this, he hissed. All of you. No, Adanna said quietly. I don't think we will. Chukwudi rushed to the SUV, carefully lifting Emeka from the trunk. His son stirred slightly, murmuring, Papa, before settling back into sleep. Adanna collapsed against her husband, sobbing with relief. He's okay. Our baby is okay. We're all okay, Chukwudi whispered, holding them both. We're all going to be okay. Dr. Nwosu approached, her expression soft. I followed you from the hospital. I had a feeling this man wouldn't play fair. And I've dealt with too many powerful men who abuse vulnerable women. I'm sorry it took me this long to act. You saved our family, Adanna said, tears streaming down her face. How can we ever thank you? By living well, by healing, by showing your son that even when the world seems broken, good people still exist. Dr. Nwosu smiled. Now get that boy to a hospital. He needs proper examination after the sedative. As police led Senator Danjuma away, Chukwudi carried Emeka toward their car. Adanna walked beside him, her hand resting protectively on her stomach, where the senator's child grew. What happens to the baby? Chukwudi asked quietly. Adanna was silent for a long moment. I don't know. But whatever I decide, we'll decide together. This child didn't ask to be conceived in violence. It deserves a chance at life, maybe with us, maybe with adoptive parents who can love it. But that's a decision for another day. Chukwudi nodded. Another day. They drove through Lagos's nighttime streets, past buildings and markets and churches, toward home. Toward healing. But as they passed a newsstand, Chukwudi glimpsed tomorrow's headline already being posted. Senator arrested in rape and kidnapping scandal. The story wasn't over yet. 3 months later, Surrelir looked different to Adanna. Or perhaps she was the one who had changed. She stood at her kitchen window, watching Emeka play football with neighborhood children in the compound below. His laughter floated up, pure, innocent, untouched by the nightmare they'd survived. The sedative had left no lasting effects, though he'd cried for days after, not understanding why strange men had taken him away. Therapy was helping, both for Emeka and for the rest of them. The kettle whistled behind her. Adanna poured tea for herself and Chukwudi, who sat at their small dining table reviewing documents. He'd been reinstated at the bank after Senator Danjuma's arrest made national news. His boss had called personally to apologize, citing unfortunate circumstances and rushed to judgment. Chukwudi had accepted the apology, but declined the position. He'd taken a job at a smaller bank instead, less prestige, less money, but also less pressure. He needed time to rebuild, to heal, to learn how to be a husband again. The lawyer called, he said as Adanna set his tea down. Senator Danjuma's trial starts next month. They're confident the recording is admissible. Between that and the testimony from his other victims. Other victims? Adanna sat down, hand instinctively moving to her swollen belly. She was 5 months pregnant now, visibly showing. 7 women have come forward since the arrest. Some were hostesses like you. Others were interns, assistants, even a journalist. All of them with similar stories: coercion, rape, threats. Chukwudi's voice was heavy. He destroyed so many lives. Adanna felt sick. She'd known she wasn't alone, but hearing the number made it real. At least they'll have justice now. Because of you. Because you were brave enough to face him. I wasn't brave. I was desperate. She sipped her tea, the warmth soothing. Dr. Nwosu was the brave one. She risked her career to help us. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that had eluded them for months. Slowly, painfully, they were learning to trust each other again. Marriage counseling twice a week. Individual therapy. Church on Sundays. Though they'd changed congregations, the old one had asked them to leave until the scandal dies down. Pastor Adeyemi still visited regularly. He'd been their anchor through the storm, reminding them that redemption was possible, that God's grace covered even the darkest sins. Have you decided? Chukwudi asked carefully. About the baby? Adanna's hand spread across her belly, feeling the flutter of movement inside. The question haunted her daily. This child, conceived in violence, carrying the DNA of a monster. What kind of life could it have? I spoke to the adoption agency yesterday, she said quietly. They have a couple, Christians, unable to have children of their own. The wife is a teacher. The husband works in finance. They live in Abuja. Abuja? Chukwudi frowned. Is that wise? So close to. Senator Danjuma will be in prison for the rest of his life. His wife divorced him. His political party expelled him. He has no power anymore. Adanna paused. And this couple, they know the baby's history. They know about the rape. They still want to adopt. What are their names? Chidinma and Oluwezi Adelik. Adanna pulled out a folder, showing Chukwudi photographs. A smiling couple in their 30s, arms around each other, hope shining in their eyes. They've been married 8 years. 3 miscarriages. They've prayed for a child. Chukwudi studied the photos. They look kind. They are. I met them last week. Chidinma cried when she felt the baby kick. She said it felt like God finally answering her prayers. Adanna's own tears came. How can I deny her that? How can I deny this baby a chance at a family that will love it unconditionally? But you're its mother. Am I? Adanna's voice cracked. Every time I feel it move, I remember him. The hotel room. The way he held me down. How helpless I felt. I want to love this child, Chukwudi. I want to feel what I felt when I was pregnant with Emeka. Joy, hope, anticipation. But all I feel is fear and anger and shame. Chukwudi moved his chair closer, taking her hands. Whatever you decide, I support you. If you want to give the baby to the Adeliks, we will. If you want to raise it as ours, we will. This is your choice. Our choice, Adanna corrected. You're my husband. This affects our family too. Then let me be honest. Chukwudi took a deep breath. I don't know if I can raise Senator Danjuma's child. I want to be a good man. A godly man who can separate the innocent child from the evil father. But when I look at you, at what he did to you, I feel rage. And I'm afraid that rage might poison how I treat the baby. It was the first time he'd admitted it out loud. The relief on his face was palpable. Then we agree, Adanna said softly. The Adeliks will give this baby the love it deserves. And we'll focus on healing our family, you, me, and Emeka. The next Sunday, Adanna stood before their new church congregation. Pastor Adeyemi had arranged it, a chance to tell her story, to reclaim her narrative from the viral videos and news headlines. She was terrified. Her hands shook as she gripped the podium. 200 people stared at her, their faces a mixture of curiosity, judgment, and sympathy. My name is Adanna Okonkwo, she began, her voice barely audible. And I am a survivor. She told them everything. Her poverty-stricken youth in Enugu. The impossible choice between letting her family starve or selling herself to rich men. The shame she carried daily. Meeting Chukwudi and believing she could start over. Senator Danjuma finding her, raping her, destroying the fragile peace she'd built. She didn't spare herself. She admitted her lies, her deception, the ways she'd failed her husband. I'm not asking for your pity, she said, tears streaming freely now. I'm not even asking for your forgiveness. I'm just asking you to see me, not as the woman in those viral videos, not as a former prostitute, not as a victim, but as a human being trying to do better. Trying to heal. Trying to teach my son that mistakes don't define us forever. When she finished, silence filled the church. Then one person stood. An elderly woman in the back row, clapping slowly. Another joined her. Then another. Within moments, the entire congregation was on their feet, applauding. Adanna collapsed into Chukwudi's arms, sobbing. She'd expected judgment. Instead, she'd received grace. For months later, on a warm April morning, Adanna gave birth to a healthy baby girl. The delivery was difficult, complications from her previous injuries, but Dr. Nwosu was there, guiding her through every contraction, every push. When the baby finally emerged, wailing and perfect, Adanna held her for exactly 3 minutes. 3 minutes to memorize her daughter's face. 3 minutes to whisper blessings over her. 3 minutes to love her and let her go. Her name is Grace, Adanna told Chidinma Adelik, who waited outside the delivery room with tears streaming down her face. Because she represents God's grace to all of us, to me for carrying her, to you for raising her, and to this innocent child who deserves a fresh start. Chidinma took the baby reverently, cradling Grace against her chest. I promise we'll love her. I promise we'll tell her about you when she's old enough to understand. I promise she'll know she was wanted. Adanna nodded, unable to speak. Chukwudi stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders, supporting her through the hardest moment of her life. As the Adeliks left with baby Grace, Adanna felt something shift inside her. The weight she'd carried for months, the shame, the fear, the anger, began to lift. Not completely. Healing wasn't that simple, but enough that she could breathe again. 6 months later, Adanna stood in a small community center in Surulere, addressing a room full of young women. Some were prostitutes, trying to leave the life. Others were abuse survivors. All of them were broken, searching for hope. I'm not here to preach at you, Adanna said. "I'm here to tell you that survival is possible. That your past doesn't have to be your future. That even when the world judges you, even when you judge yourself, there is still a path forward." She'd started the support group with Dr. Nwosu and 2 other survivors from Senator Danjuma's trial. Every Thursday evening, they met to share stories, offer resources, pray together. It wasn't much, a few women in a borrowed room, but it was something. It was hope. After the meeting, Adanna walked home through Surulir's busy streets. The neighborhood that had once whispered about her now greeted her warmly. The video had been largely forgotten, replaced by newer scandals. Those who remembered treated her with respect, or at least indifference. She could live with that. At home, Emeka was doing homework at the kitchen table. He was 7 now, bright and curious, asking questions about everything. He knew bits and pieces of what had happened, age-appropriate versions, but the full story would wait until he was older. Chukwudi was cooking dinner, singing along to gospel music on the radio. He'd started doing that lately, singing, laughing, letting joy back into their home. They'd celebrated their 8th wedding anniversary last month with a quiet dinner, recommitting to each other with new vows. "I promise to see you as God sees you, beloved, forgiven, whole. I promise to fight for us, even when it's hard. I promise to choose grace over judgment, every single day." They weren't perfect. Some nights, Adanna still woke up screaming from nightmares. Some days, Chukwudi struggled with intrusive thoughts about the senator. Their marriage counselor said this was normal, trauma didn't heal on a schedule. But they were healing. Slowly. Together. "Mama," Emeka called out. "Can you help me with this math problem?" Adanna smiled, setting down her bag. "Of course, baby." As she sat beside her son, helping him work through fractions, she thought about baby Grace. The Adaliks sent monthly updates, photos, videos, little stories about her first smile, her first tooth. Grace was thriving, loved beyond measure. And so was Adanna. She was no longer defined by her worst moments. Not by the desperate choices of her youth. Not by the viral videos. Not by Senator Danjuma's violence. She was defined by her resilience. Her courage. Her choice to keep living, keep hoping, keep believing that redemption was possible. The phone rang. "Dr. Nwosu. Adanna, I have news. Senator Danjuma was sentenced today. 45 years in prison. No parole." Adanna closed her eyes, feeling the final piece of weight lift from her shoulders. "Thank you for telling me. Will you come to the courthouse? The other survivors are gathering. We want to speak to the press together, show that we're united, that we're strong." "I'll be there," Adanna promised. When she hung up, Chukwudi was watching her from the kitchen doorway. "How do you feel?" "Free," she said simply. And for the first time in years, she truly was. 2 years later, Adanna received an invitation. Chidinma and Oluwazi and Adalik were hosting a birthday party for Grace, who was turning 2. They wanted Adanna and her family to attend. Chukwudi was hesitant. "Are you sure you're ready?" But Adanna was. She'd done the therapy, the grief work, the emotional processing. She could see Grace not as a reminder of trauma, but as a testament to resilience, proof that beauty could emerge from ashes. They drove to Abuja on a Saturday morning, Emeka chattering excitedly in the back seat. He knew he had a special sister who lived with another family, and that seemed perfectly normal to him. The Adalik's home was beautiful, a modest bungalow with a garden full of flowers. Grace toddled around the yard, chasing butterflies, her laughter like music. When she saw Adanna, she hesitated for just a moment. Then Chidinma whispered something in her ear, and Grace ran forward, arms outstretched. "Auntie Adanna." Adanna scooped her up, holding her close, breathing in her baby scent. Grace looked nothing like Senator Danjuma. She had Chidinma's smile, Oluwazian's gentle eyes, and a spirit all her own. "Hello, beautiful girl," Adanna whispered. "You've grown so much." As the party continued around them, children playing, adults talking, cake being served, Adanna sat in the garden with Chukwudi, watching their families blend together. Emeka and Grace played on the swing set. The Adaliks laughed with Pastor Adeyemi. Dr. Nwosu arrived with gifts and stories from the support group, which now had 30 regular members. This was redemption, Adanna realized. Not a single dramatic moment, but 1,000 small ones, each choice to love instead of hate, to hope instead of despair, to build instead of destroy. She'd survived her past. She'd faced her worst fears. And she'd emerged not as a victim, but as a victor. "Thank you," she said to Chukwudi, taking his hand. "For what?" "For staying. For fighting for us. For seeing me when everyone else only saw my mistakes." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you for teaching me what true strength looks like." As the sun set over Abuja, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Adanna felt complete peace. Her story wasn't the fairy tale she'd once imagined. It was messier, more painful, more real. But it was hers. And she'd survived it. And that was enough. The end. Thank you for watching Adanna's story. If this touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear about resilience and redemption. Have you ever faced public judgment? How did you overcome it? Share your story in the comments below. You might inspire someone who's struggling today. And remember, your past doesn't define your future. There's always hope for a new beginning. Until next time, this is Kaysmarts Mythic Tales, reminding you that even in our darkest moments, grace can still find us.